So your hives are assembled, perfectly painted, and the equipment is just sitting right there in your yard, completely ready to go. Welcome to this explainer, part of our Is Beekeeping for You series. Today, we're going to make that empty box real by tackling the single biggest early question you're going to face: what bees should you actually put inside it? We're going to compare the two most common starting methods side by side. And don't worry, there's zero sales pressure here. We just want you to make the absolute smartest choice for your brand new apiary. Right out of the gate, the differences are visually pretty stark. Over on the left, we've got a nucleus colony, and on the right, package bees. Before we get into all the technical, biological definitions, let's just ground ourselves in what you're literally looking at. One looks like an active, functioning mini hive built on wooden frames, right? While the other is basically a screened shipping box stuffed with a loose mass of bees and a tin can. Okay, here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with defining packages and nukes, followed by comparing the inside, and looking at the population growth clock. Then we'll dive into health risks and comb, Virginia regulatory requirements, and finally, making your final decision. We're covering the practical, the biological, and the legal angles, so you feel completely confident moving forward. Section 1. Defining packages and nukes. What are you actually buying? Let's establish exactly what arrives inside these containers when you hand over your hard-earned money. What's really fascinating about a package is how it's put together. You're getting a screen shipping cage that usually holds about 3 pounds of adult worker bees. You also get a separately caged mated queen and a little bit of sugary feed just to keep everybody alive during transport. And that's it. Notice what you're not getting here. There are no frames, no drawn comb, no pollen, no stored honey, and definitely no developing brood. You are starting from absolute scratch with a box full of adult bees. Now, on the flip side, we have the nucleus colony, which everybody just calls a nuke. A nuke is an entirely different beast. It's a small, already functioning colony sitting on removable frames, usually about 5 of them. It comes with a laying queen, adult bees, brood in multiple stages of development, drawn wax comb, and stored food. You are essentially buying a working mini hive. When installation day comes, you're just transferring those established frames directly into your boxes. Section 2. Comparing the inside, a side-by-side look. Let's see how this all builds into a direct comparison. For a beginner, we really need to focus on 2 massive factors here: the queen and the comb. So let's talk about your relationship with the queen, because this is absolutely crucial. When you buy a package, that queen comes in her own separate little cage. The adult workers loose in that box, they might have been shaken from multiple different donor colonies, they probably don't even know her, and honestly, they might not even like her at first. As a beginner, that puts the stressful task of verifying they actually accept her during installation squarely on your shoulders. But with a nuke, that queen is normally already accepted, she's established, and she's actively laying eggs right there alongside her own daughters. It is a much, much more forgiving starting point. And when we look at the actual resources, the gap gets even wider. With a package, you're putting them onto bare foundation, zero brooded installation. And because those bees literally have to secrete wax to build every single cell from scratch before the queen can lay an egg or food can be stored, they are going to need a substantial amount of early feeding from you. A nuke, though, gives you that highly valuable drawn comb and brood in several stages. Since that comb is already built, your early feeding requirements are often way lower, though obviously you still got to keep an eye on the weather and local forage. Section 3, the population growth clock. Why the starts feel different. Let's pivot to the biology for a second, because understanding the timeline explains why managing these 2 options in the first month feels so drastically different. 21. I really want you to memorize this number. It takes about 21 days for a worker bee to develop from a tiny egg into a fully grown adult. This is the crucial brood clock that dictates exactly how your colony is going to grow. Now, let's look at how those 21 days actually play out. If you install a package on day 1, those bees have to spend the next few days just drawing out comb, accepting the queen, and finally releasing her. Only then can she lay an egg. Add 21 days to that, and your first batch of new adult workers won't emerge for nearly a month. And during all that waiting time, your original package workforce is just aging and shrinking. Visible growth takes a lot of time, but a nuke arrives with capped brood already there. That means you've got young reinforcements emerging and replacing older adults almost immediately, giving you a much faster population trajectory. Section 4. Health risks and comb. Looking past the obvious. Okay, we need to step away from the physical parts of the hive for a minute and gently correct a few really common beginner assumptions about health, pests, and inherited equipment. Look, while nukes give you incredibly valuable drawn comb, You have to remember that you are also permanently transferring whatever is present in those frames directly into your new apiary. You are inheriting the seller's comb history. This can mean Varroa mites hiding safely out of sight under capped brood diseases, small hive beetles, wax moth damage, or honestly just old dark comb holding on to pesticide residues. You have to inspect a nuke carefully. A lane queen is great, but she doesn't automatically guarantee a perfectly healthy colony. But let's bust a major myth right now. Packages are not automatically mite-free. It is such a common trap for beginners to think, hey, I'm starting with clean, comb-free equipment, so my package is totally safe from Varroa mites. No way. Mites ride right on the adult bees themselves. So whether you decide on a package or a nuke, establishing a strict ongoing mite monitoring plan is an absolute, non-negotiable requirement for every single new colony. Section 5, Virginia Regulatory Requirements. Local rules for moving bees. Since the source material we're looking at from Blackwater Honey is based out of Virginia Beach, we're going to quickly walk through the specific regulatory requirements for purchasing and moving bees there. It's a great example of how the law treats these two formats very differently. Let me just untangle these legalities for you. Under Virginia law, bees on comb, which includes nukes, sold within the state absolutely must be accompanied by a certificate of health. If you're importing used comb or hives from out of state into Virginia, you actually need a specific entry permit from the state apiarist. And what about those combless packages? Well, if they're crossing state lines into Virginia, they've got to have a certificate of health from wherever they originated. The takeaway here? Always, always verify your local rules to make sure your purchase is completely legal and compliant. Section 6. Making your final decision. Value over price. All right, we've covered the biology, the actual contents of the boxes, and the legal side of things. Let's pull this all together so you can evaluate the total establishment value, rather than just staring at the sticker prices. But wait, before you even look at the price tag, you need to look at your physical boxes. There is a huge limitation for beginners when it comes to nuke's frame compatibility. Nuke frames absolutely must exactly match your hive's width and depth. A deep frame nuke simply isn't going to fit into a medium box. If the frames don't match your setup, the nuke is totally useless to you. That is exactly where packages have a massive advantage. Packages offer supreme flexibility. You can dump a package into standard Linkstrath hives, top bar hives, or whatever non-standard custom format you've got going on. Now, let's walk through the whole picture. If you're just glancing at the initial price, sure, a package is often cheaper and a nuke is going to cost you a bit more. But look at the bigger picture value. With a package, you're likely going to spend more money and time on feed, you are taking on the stress of verifying queen acceptance, and the value of your comb is literally zero. With a nuke, you are essentially buying time. You're getting several valuable drawn frames, a queen that's already accepted and doing her job, and potentially much lower feed costs. When you factor in all of that, the time, the feeding, the queen risk, a strong, healthy, compatible nuke from a reputable local producer is very often the easier start and the better overall value for a beginner using standard equipment. To make sure you're actually getting that value, I want to leave you with this practical checklist for pickup day. Before you put that box in your car and drive away, verify the colony is queen right. Look for visible eggs and young larvae. Check that you've got multiple brood stages present. Ensure the bees are actually covering the frames, because a weak box with old, dark comb is a bad deal no matter the price. Confirm that exact frame size compatibility one last time and review all the required health documents. My advice? Order early, but do not let a sense of scarcity pressure you into accepting weak bees or unclear standards. And that brings us to a huge realization. You could pick the absolute perfect format for your apiary, but a strong, healthy package from a transparent, supportive producer is always going to be a much better purchase than a weak, uninspected nuke. Who you buy from matters just as much as what you buy. So with your format in mind, the real question is, where should you buy your first bees? Well, that is a fantastic question, and it's exactly what we're going to dive into in the next explainer in our series. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.